Over 301 million people in the world suffer with anxiety. Over 264 million people suffer with depression, and over 400 million people suffer with addiction. I asked New York Times bestselling author Rick Hanson what's going on. In this episode of Heal Thyself, he gives us a tangible, at-home, stepwise plan to get out of these ruts.
Where we live is an absolute departure from the biological template of living in a small band with 40 or so people your whole life. The social media, which had the opportunity to bring us together, is actually increasing divisiveness and increasing the tendency for people to live in a very small silo.
Rick Hanson is a psychologist, senior fellow at UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center, and a New York Times bestselling author. He's the author of 7 books published in 33 different languages to help you heal from within, as well as strengthening relationships. In this episode, Rick will share decades of expertise to help you regain your mental health and your life. All right, Doc, thank you for joining the show from the not too far part of the region, Northern California. I know it very well. You know, I used to live in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley, so I've been to Marin County many times. Beautiful place. I love the work that you do because, as I was saying off air, this is the type of conversations I love having. This is where we need to talk more about this mental health, brain health, fundamental to just being embodied and feeling happy and thriving in your life. So many people are lonely and unhappy. As I was looking through your conversations, I know you have a lot of best-selling books that I want to talk about, but the one question that keeps going into my head that I really want to ask you is that, okay, we have so many resources for our mental health and even the physical health. Why is mental health getting worse? Why are people suffering from the anxiety and depression even more, loneliness even more, mental health issues even more, when we're supposed to have all this technology and information right at our hands?
It's a profound question, and I'm really glad you started there. I don't have all the answers. I have, some opinions about them. I think first, social media has become an increasingly toxic influence. And to share a story here from Dr. Gabor Mate, who I don't know, maybe you've already had on your show. He's a world-class expert on trauma. And I was interviewing him on a different thing. And Gabor said at one point, if you have a petri dish, like biologists use to study microbes and bacteria and so on, and if you have a really healthy strain of bacteria that's thriving over here, and you transfer it to this different petri dish over here, which has a different, with a culture medium, and the bacteria does not thrive over here in the new petri dish, you would not blame the bacteria. You would take a hard look at the culture in which that bacteria is trying to live. And so I think social media, with its increasing divisiveness and also the vulnerability for comparison, people can do social comparison. We're big social primates, big scared monkeys, and it's natural for us to compare ourselves against each other. So here you are in social media looking at the highlight reel of everybody else's lives, but you're really aware of your own total movie, warts and all. So I think that's one thing. I also think economically, for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, they did not have the advantages that I did and my generation did soon after World War II, catching an economic updraft, essentially, an escalator in the economy and the ability to get housing, to buy a house at a relatively inexpensive price. And so what you have, it's interesting. One of the few things I remember from going to college at UCLA, go Bruins, back in the day, is that revolutions often happen. And it's a really interesting thing. When do people become really discontent? It's when um, expectations rise with conditions, but then conditions plateau while expectations are continuing to rise. In that gap there, that's where people get very discontent. And I think that was one of the drivers of the results in the recent US election. Whether you like the result or not like the result, either way, one of the major causes of the result, I think, was that gap between hopes and realities for many, many people. So I think that's a big part of it. Then I have another little theory which goes to the brain, which is that as someone who's lived in the world of mental health, positive psychology, pop psych, self-help, and mindfulness practice, Eastern traditions coming into America, what I've seen is a tremendous improvement in the experiences that we can help people to have new teachers, new teachings, new ideas. Great. So we, the profession and the culture in general, is better at creating good experiences of healthy states of mind, but we have not gotten at all better at helping people to learn from those experiences, to be changed for the better in lasting ways. And that's where my own focus on, I call it taking in the good, to grow the good inside yourself that lasts so that you have it with you every day. So I think another kind of reason for the issues with mental health as you're describing is that we have not been teaching people simple, effective tools that are very much in my own wheelhouse. Simple, effective tools based on research, based on common sense, whereby people can actually internalize the useful experiences they're having. So more and more inner peace and well-being and self-worth and resilience are hardwired into their own nervous system wherever they go.
Mm. Three fundamental approaches that I wish we even learned. I know the social media advent is more, more recent, but I wish we learned earlier to really teach our kids, and especially this generation coming up. They don't know anything but social media. So comparison, insecurity, everyone's highlight reels, as you say. I mean, it's tough because now we've integrated so much of our lives onto the phone, and it was just insidious. It just happened at some point where everything was on the phone all of a sudden, and there's so many children. And we're not even talking about the blue lights effect on the body. But one thing that stuck out that I want to ask you a question on is you said that we can start building that resiliency and coming back and helping by implementing all of these practices into our lives to help our nervous system. Can it change if we grew up in a household that was traumatic and then we were bullied in school and then we didn't do well and we got into addiction? Can we make a change long term into our brain and our nervous system?
Absolutely, yes. Flat out. And I'm a careful person. I don't say this sort of stuff casually. Uh, the scientific research, the examples of countless people who've come through horrible conditions, much more horrible than the, kind of minor horrible I've had to deal with. I mean, horrible, horrible. They find a way on the other side to work through the issues and to find some sense of inner peace and well-being as a result. So there's tremendous evidence for that. The how of it is really important. And this is my whole work. For one, I just want to pause for a moment and have us all register with compassion what it's like to grow up in that household, what it's like to be bullied in school, what it's like to have losses, um, what it's like to grow up in poverty. The single greatest negative factor for mental health is poverty. Nearly 1 in 5 children in America lives below the poverty line. In California, nearly 1 in 4. Uh, that's I try not to swear. I mean, when I'm in a formal situation, that's messed up, bad, wrong. And so I think it's really important to just take a moment to feel the weight of the suffering, the unnecessary suffering and harms that are done to people in all kinds of ways, including through structural systems that are racist, biased in different ways, prejudiced, doors are closed. Here's a totally, and stop me if I'm going off too far here, but here's a totally weird statistic. In the University of California, right? One of the probably the greatest public university in the world with its multiple campuses. Imagine the socioeconomic status of incoming freshmen being divided into 5 groups from lowest to highest. And also imagine the SAT scores, the college boards, the tests that really show capability, academic capability, also are divided into 5 groups. The graduation rate of people coming in to the UCs from the lowest socioeconomic level with the highest SAT scores is lower than other kids who come in at the highest socioeconomic level, but the lowest SAT scores. Just contemplate that in terms of the lingering effects of, you know, schooling and home environments and background and further stresses. So these social factors really make a big difference. I just, for sure, totally want to acknowledge that. All that said, if we take them as givens, they are what they are. Can a person's life change? Never bet against the human heart. Never bet against the soul that we have in some mysterious way, our spirit. Never bet against it. And uh, the takeaway really is very profound. No one can stop a person from learning from or gaining from the experiences they're having at the time. And the worse their circumstances, the more that society and other people are kicking them in the face, the more important it is to be self-reliant inside your own mind, to take charge there inside your own mind in how you internalize and register and heal yourself from the inside out. No one can stop you from doing that, but no one can do it for you. So you have tremendous power and also tremendous responsibility for using that power yourself. And there are basic skills. You offer them, I offer them. They're widely available. People can find whatever speaks to them in their own cultural language. It's all good. It's fine. But we have to do it ourselves. That's good news, bad news.
It is good
You
news,
and
bad
you
news.
will earn the results of your own practice. So absolutely. And it really is, I'll finish on this point really fast, just that it gives us confidence and hope to know that we have that power. And every day, we can learn a little, grow a little, heal a little, become a little stronger, become a little more loving, become a little wiser every single day. And the gradual accumulation of those little bits every single day will transform your life.
Mm. And what I'm hearing is that then, regardless of wherever we are socioeconomically, we still have that internal force that can drive us into healing, drive us into a better state. Um, Even if we suffered really terrible traumas in our lives. You know, some of the people, it seems like with so much momentum of trauma, they come back with so much momentum in the healing when they go through that place. Because I've seen people, it's like the people who have the most incredible amount of trauma tend to be the people who, when they move that momentum towards creating something in a healthier way, coming out of it, giving back to something, telling their story, whatever it is, they do some great things. It's pretty incredible. Now, is that then a moment, a decision? Like, we can live in a state of victimization, right? I am a state of victimization, right? Like, it would be hard not to be a victim if we're in a home where we're feeling victimized as a kid, where we don't have power to come out of things. Is this a moment, a decision that we make where we go, is it just a movement from a victim to like an empowered creator who's an advocate for his or herself? How do we make that one shift for people who are viewing and listening? You know, I'm always someone who's exploring healthy ways to optimize my overall health. And I really get excited when I talk about things that make a difference in my routine. Nuzest Good Green Vitality is one of those. It's a staple in my routine. It's been a staple for more than a year, and it's been a game changer. I'm actually getting all of the nutrients that I need in the morning: vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. It's supporting my system, every single organ, greens, fruits, vegetables. It's even got a probiotic blend for my gut. And I'm only taking a simple scoop, put in a little bit of water. You can put it in your smoothie. You can do however you want. Tastes good. And I know that it's supportive for me overall, especially for that day. I have good energy, good focus. Even when I feel the winter coming on and I can be getting sick, I know that I can rely on something that is going to keep my immune system really robust. Instead of having a cupboard full of supplements that I'm taking 30 or 15 or even 20 of them, I could just take this scoop. I feel good. It's efficient. It's clean. It's on the go. And what I love most about Good Green Vitality is how comprehensive it is. It's really, really potent. You have therapeutic doses of these vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. Not like a lot of the green powders out there that have really low doses that don't really do anything. You're just drinking green mush. And we want to stay robust. I mean, over 90% of us have multiple vitamins, minerals, antioxidants that are essential for our human health at really low levels. So we want to make sure we're maintaining these agents in our system at a high level that is helping us thrive, not survive, thrive. So Nuzest, my favorite Good Green Vitality, the best one out there, is offering an exclusive discount for you, the Heal Thyself listener. You get 20% off of all of their products by visiting nuzest-usa.com/DRG. That is NUZEST-USA.com/DRG and use the code DRG at checkout. You know what's fascinating about the wellness industry? Sometimes the simplest solutions are backed by the most impressive standards. That's what drew me into Cornbread Hemp. It's USDA organic CBD gummies. They've actually created something revolutionary. I made these gummies part of my evening routine. I take 1 to 2 before bed, an hour before bed, and they knock me out. And I love gummies. I do. It's a kid in me. And this is the first organic, clean organic gummy out there. Gluten-free, vegan, dairy-free, no artificial preservatives. They're transparent, third-party tested. They share their testing. You can trace back the product right to the Kentucky farm where it was grown, and they're full spectrum. That means you're getting all the beneficial compounds. They're working together just like nature intended, right? Go check out Cornbread Hemp. You could take it for anxiety. You could take it for sleep. They have a 2-minute quiz to help you find out which one is best for you. And everything is backed by their 30-day Better Life guarantee. But Cornbread Hemp is deep in my rotation for sleep. It is my most recent go-to for sleep. 1 or 2 of them little gummies, chew it up, hour before sleep, and you're feeling good. It'll knock you out. Trust me. It's great for airplanes too. All right. So check it out. You, the Heal Thyself listener, get 30% off of your order. Go to cornbreadhemp.com/DRG. Use the promo code DRG at checkout. That is cornbreadhemp.com/DRG. And you're going to get 30% off.
I have a little model that in all the different psychological tools from clinical psychology, also the spiritual traditions, I have a fairly deep background there as well, especially in Buddhism, which has a lot of tools. All of it together, there are 3 fundamental ways to work with your own mind, to engage it. First, we be with what's there. Second, we reduce what's harmful. Third, we grow the good. It's kind of like if the mind is like a garden, you can witness it, you can pull weeds, you can plant flowers. They're all important. So for people that are dealing today as adults with the impacts which the brain and nervous system are designed to take in, with the impacts from a trauma, abuse, poverty, challenges, the first step, of course, is to get on your own side about them. I find that that's often missing for people. They are loyal to others, but they are not loyal to themselves. They do not bring that sense of support with kindness and also a kind of muscularity, moxie. You know, they don't do that for themselves. It's as if the pilot light is out. So no matter how many workshops they go to or books they read or podcasts they listen to, it doesn't make much difference because they're not really for themselves. They're not on their own side. So that's very important to realize you have the right to do that and you need to do that and you're worth it. So now you're on your own side. Also, compassion for yourself. There's a ton of research on compassion, which is not wallowing in self-pity. It's simply empathy for suffering combined with caring. Empathy alone is not compassion because con artists are empathic to rip you off. Compassion includes benevolence. You can be empathic toward yourself. You can, with self-awareness, really feel what you're feeling, let it be, with caring toward yourself. That's all really fundamental. It's foundational. And in my experience, sometimes people jump quickly to trying to heal or repair their own trauma or the impact on their mind without first doing this initial step, which is noble. It's heroic to feel your feelings, to bear your pain, to bow to it, to honor it, to give it its due. That's the first necessary step. And if a person has tried other things and they haven't had much traction, go back to the first step and ask yourself, have I really been with? Have I really felt fully? Have I honored what it's like to be me and my own pain? It's foundational. At the point that a person has um, let be, think of these three as let be, let go, let in. Let be, they've done that first thing. There's kind of a moment, I think of it like the Goldilocks moment, not too tall, not too short, not too hot, not too cold. It's like a just right moment where it feels okay. And then you can move into releasing and systematically, uh, be aware of the feelings you're having. See if you can let them drain out of your body. There are different visualizations you can do, like putting those negative feelings in a little tiny boat you make in the river of time and casting it off. I'm a science fiction nerd, so I imagine spaceships carrying my pain from childhood and blasting off and going into the heart of the sun and dissolving into their atoms. Uh, Whatever it might be, venting sometimes, not hurting yourself, but pounding a pillow, yelling in your car or the shower. Don't freak people out. Don't get into an accident, but get venting. And then the beliefs. Often there are beliefs associated with past trauma or painful experiences that we've internalized, even going all the way back from childhood. And you can release those beliefs. You can challenge them, disagree with them, you know. And sometimes too, there are harmful desires we can release as well addictive desires, self-soothing, self-medicating. We can let them go. We can, get support in our own sobriety if that's necessary. Uh, and then, third step, now that you've witnessed what's there and been with it and honored it, and second, released a fair something, it feels like there's an opening inside. And at that point, you can receive. What do you've pulled the weeds, you still need to replace them with flowers in the garden of your mind. What are you growing? What are you deliberately trying to develop inside yourself? My experience, most people and even most therapists do not have a plan. I did not have a plan early in my career, which is now 50 years long as a therapist, in effect, broadly. Um, like, what are we trying to do here? It's good to have a plan. It's better to have a bad plan than no plan because if you have a bad plan, it'll become revealed soon and then it'll help you get a better plan. So, what are you trying to grow? Right. And what would replace, like, for example, I'll finish here. If you're replacing and releasing feelings of low worth, like you're second class, you're broken, you're damaged, you're spoiled, often if people are molested, there's a sense of being shamed or being shameful themselves, even though the shame belongs with the molester, not the not the target of the molester. But still, people can have feelings. I've had very deep feelings of being less than others, inadequacy, having to do with some issues in my own upbringing and going through school while being very young. So you're letting go, let's suppose, of feelings of low worth. Well, what's the matched alternative? What's the medicine or the compensation for what you're releasing? This is a very useful way to think. And I've elaborated this way of thinking in freely offered material on my website and also in my different courses and stuff, and in my book, Hardwiring Happiness. What are the inner strengths that are matched to the challenges you're facing, including what you're still carrying inside? So for low worth, you could, for example, deliberately look for experiences of being included or appreciated by others and slow down and help those really sink in. That is healing for feelings of inadequacy or low worth. Right? You could deliberately pay attention to when others are appreciating you or when you can appreciate yourself. That too is natural medicine. You can see how I'm matching it again and again. I'm matching it to what the issue is. And in doing all this, what I'm describing gives you a fundamental strategy for healing yourself. Let be, let go, let in, often which work in a circular way as a kind of upward spiral and a positive cycle. Because as you let in and you grow more strengths inside, you're able to be with what happened more deeply and getting all the way down sometimes to the tip of the root of what really happened and what is still really, really wearing you down and burdening you. So that's a strategy. And then with regard to the third part that I'm emphasizing, taking in the good, There are so many opportunities to take in the good every day, just in the flow of the day. And also, if you know, especially one thing in particular that you're trying to grow these days, like I might ask you, actually, if you're willing, what's one thing in particular you, Christian, are trying to grow inside yourself these days? You're developing, you're leaning into it, you're stabilizing it. It's really helpful to know what that one thing is. And then every day becomes a phenomenal opportunity to look for the good that is real, no BS. We're not trying to see the world with rose-colored glasses. We're seeing what's real. The more the world is shit, the more important it is to recognize what is still good about it and still good inside you in the world you're dealing with. Um, every day then becomes this phenomenal opportunity of appreciation, including appreciating what's good inside you and growing. The two meanings of the word appreciate, right? What we appreciate appreciates. It gets bigger, it gets more. Okay. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, I love to hear practical strategies that are tangible. And I guess my favorite part is really the one that resonates for most for me is actually bringing to the awareness the things that can sort of prove wrong that insecurity that you may be living with, right? Because we sometimes we go, I feel lonely, but we don't really bring to the attention that we have our friend always wanted to come see us, or our dad wants to talk to us on the phone, or our brother wants to come visit us. We sort of push that away, and I guess by human nature kind of revel in all the quote unquote bad parts or the painful parts. And I love that you're saying that we can find the opposite in there and we can start planting new seeds. And appreciation is such a great vibration to live in, because life becomes a lot more fruitful the way we're experiencing each other. Is I appreciate this person and I have compassion and benevolence, not just empathy, but benevolence too. What a way to live life. And is it that we're not connected to each other? Is it that we're not seeing enough people a day? Is that we're not socializing? We're not feeling connected? Is that one of the problems why a lot of us are feeling lonely and just running away from so much? Are we made to be connecting in relation to people?
Well, for sure that. And it's interesting that you've gone there in a way. And wow, so much about this. So I think part one is, you know, I'm really happy to live today, right? And I like refrigerators. I like ESPN, I like ibuprofen. I
Yeah.
like beer. Man, if you like beer, this is the best time to be alive in the history of the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Modern medicine, good, 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 good. And where we live is an absolute aberration. It's bizarre. It's an absolute departure from the biological template of living in a small band with 40 or so people your whole life, loosely connected to other bands. That's the biological template for the 300,000 years of that anatomically modern people like you and me have been walking this earth. 300,000 years. And it's only in the last 10,000, and really only in the last um, several thousand or even hundred, that people are no longer living, in small villages or let alone small bands, but in these large societies that are very disconnecting. And it's again ironic and sad that social media, which had the opportunity to bring us together, is actually increasing divisiveness and increasing the tendency for people to live in a very small silo, um, and to connect, if they do, through very attenuated forms of connecting, like fiddling with their phone. You see, for me, I think it's just a crack up to see people on a date, you know,
Right.
covertly, each of them is
Right.
looking at their phone under the table.
Yeah.
What? So, yes, I think though that's a serious factor without a doubt. Um, and on the other hand, I'm a big, I'm a fan of self-reliance. Life is challenging. Okay, here it is. Uh, you got knocked down. You're swimming upstream. The currents are against you. Okay, big breath. What are you going to do about it? Right. And for me, as a longtime therapist, it's almost as if there's this rhythm where we kind of step in and we step back. What I mean by that is there's a rhythm where we We face what is true and we feel it and we give it its due. We have to do that. There's a lot of emphasis, I think, on skipping this necessary first step because we don't want to feel the pain or we don't want to look like we're hurting. We don't want to look vulnerable. People in America, especially, want to have this shiny face. So much pressure to project that mask. So the first step is to recognize what's true, but then there's the necessary question. Okay, it sucks. It's messed up. It's not fair. It's really not fair. That's true. Okay. And what can you do about it? What can you do about it outside yourself? How can you cope with what's outside yourself as best you can, realistically? And how can you practice with what's inside yourself, inside your own heart, inside your own mind? How can you work with your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, your attitudes, your motivations, your desires, your habits? There's no escaping that responsibility for coping with what's outside you and practicing with what's inside you. And I do think, I don't know what you've seen, Christian, because you're in the space too. You're in the mental health space too. Um, I feel a lot of compassion for people and a lot of recognition for how they didn't learn skills and they're pushed around by life. And also, I think a lot of people are aware of the importance of becoming skillful with the world around them. You know, they learn to drive a car, operate a piece of equipment, uh, you know, manage a spreadsheet in their job, you know, but they're not self-reliant inside their own being. They don't make efforts inside their own mind. They don't, um, they don't exercise the influence they could exercise over their own thoughts and feelings. And I think that's just a lost opportunity. So I think that's a major reason why, not just the the society we have that blows up relationships and removes forms of support that we really need from other people. Now we're very much on our own, unfortunately. The so-called village it takes to raise a child is like a ghost town in most developed countries in the world today. Uh, yes, in addition to that, I think that many people miss opportunities to be more self-reliant inside their own mind and to take more action there. And you know, you offer tools, I offer tools, so that people can do that more for their own sake and also for the ripple effects with others.
Mm. And thank you for highlighting how much emphasis is in the outside world and our relationship to it, our reliance on it, but how we've kind of surpassed that inward lens to us. We don't really learn it. You know, maybe we had it when we were kids a lot more, a lot better as we got older. Sort of just we lost that muscle. In your experience, what are some of the best ways to turn that lens back in so we can start building our inner self-reliance? You know, as someone who's always aware of what I'm putting in my body, you know that, I've learned that it's not just about what we cook, it's really what we're cooking with. One of my first shows, let's say the first 10 shows, I would say, I talk about cookware. And go back. One of my first shows I wrote is about cookware. I talk about some important stuff. One of the main things is that a lot of traditional cookware is coated in polyfluorinated chemicals, PFAS chemicals, the nonstick, the Teflons of the world. And that's problematic. I go through all of the research behind it, but what you're doing is cooking into your food and actually into the air. These chemicals that stay in your body for a really long time. And it's not just that, there's other chemicals like heavy metals that you're being exposed to. That's why I love Our Place. They have an amazing cast iron line. I replace all my old cookware. You come to my house, I only have the pot and I have the skillet, and it's amazing. It's enameled cast iron, which is a game changer because unlike the raw cast iron pans, these will never rust. They're incredibly easy to use and they're PFAS free. This beautiful enamel coating, which is high heated glass, is protecting it, and there's no leaching of those heavy metals that I just mentioned. Usually you're gonna find lead and cadmium in different cookware, but really with Our Place, they're tested for it. I saw the tests, clean, good to go. If you're ready to upgrade your kitchen and your cookware, and it's both beautiful and health conscious, I recommend Our Place. They have the best cast iron line in the game. They offer a 100-day trial with free shipping and returns, so you can experience the difference for yourself. Go to FromOurPlace.com, enter the code DRG at checkout to receive 10% off site-wide. That is FromOurPlace.com, Use the code DRG. If you love the podcast and you want to be down with the Dr. G Heal Thyself community, we give incredible tips every single week on getting a healthier physical, mental, and emotional body. The newest updates of my favorite products, the newest updates of my favorite practices. Stay in the loop by joining the Dr. G community. All you got to do is go to any one of my posts on Instagram and comment the word news. You'll get a DM to join.
I have a little first aid kit. I think of this is what I'm going to answer your question. So, and it's about how to deal with things in the moment, alongside over time growing particular strengths that you want to develop. So, the first step is to be aware that of what you're feeling. Maybe aware that you've gotten pissed off, or you're kind of startled, or you walked away from that interaction and you just have a bad feeling about it. You didn't like it. You felt disrespected. They didn't take you seriously. Maybe they pushed you around, or they acted like they, were superior in some way. Normal, real world stuff, right? Uh, or you're rolling along and then suddenly something comes to mind and huh, it's painful. You're maybe you remember, like, you have a family member you're estranged from, and it just feels bad. Okay, or maybe you shouldn't do this, but boy, it would be really nice. You'd really like to have that third or fifth beer. It's coming up. So step one, notice what's there. And in a way that's mindful, compassionate, mindful, you're aware of what's there. Uh, there's a little trick you can do, which is literally to just name it. Give it a little word or a brief phrase, a label, name it to tame it, as they say. And literally in your brain, that increases activity in the prefrontal cortex behind the forehead, which is like the executive center of your brain, like the chair of a committee who can regulate things. And also naming it reduces activity in the amygdala, which is the alarm bell of the brain and the kind of the initiator of the fight, flight, freeze response. So in the first few seconds, notice that you're upset, right? Second, have compassion for yourself. Just that warm sense. We're profoundly social primates. We're social animals, social mammals, and we can be social toward ourselves, even if the world is not being very kind to us. We can treat ourselves kindly. The more that the world is unkind, the more important it is to treat yourself with kindness, to be on your own side, to be caring toward yourself. So self-compassion, number two. A few, if you think of the clock ticking by, that person did that thing, they flipped you off. You're driving on the freeway and they flipped you off. Boom, the clock starts ticking. You notice you're pissed off by it and you want to drive your car into them or something. Um, right? A few seconds go by. A few more seconds go by. You're compassionate toward yourself. Then a few more seconds go by and you start tuning into a muscular response of being on your own side. You're for yourself. You don't want to take this lying down. You're not going to be defeated by life. That's that muscular response, which is very important to develop, especially for people who've been pushed around a lot in life. A few more seconds go by. And then the fourth step, make a plan. What do you want to do about this? Maybe what you want to do is just kind of shrug. That other guy flipping you off on the freeway was an asshole. Okay. But you're not going to make a bad situation worse by doing something stupid. Okay. Or maybe your plan, I don't know, is to avoid the freeway, but you probably can't. I grew up in LA, so you can't avoid the freeway. Uh, anyway, you make a plan. Let's suppose it's interpersonal. Maybe somebody has, um, mistreated you in your family, your partner, your your neighbor. Well, what's your plan? What are you going to do? Are you going to say something to them? Are you going to watch more carefully? Are you going to get some advice from somebody else? Are you just going to shrug and let it go by because it's not worth the argument? Make a plan, know what you're going to do. And then fifth, implement your plan. The first four parts of that through making a plan could take 10 to 20 seconds, maybe a little longer, a lot in the flow of life. But that is really something a person can do. And it has all the elements in it of things that will help you. It may sound really silly and obvious. It's not silly, it is obvious. And it's also obvious that most people don't do this. They just, they either react or they just shut down. And what I'm describing and what you and I are talking about is, again, how to be self-reliant, how to be how to have agency, how to be a hammer instead of a nail as you go through life. I would say that. And then more broadly, if you want to give me an example, maybe of a particular issue a person's grappling with, I could talk about what inner strengths might be good to develop that would be matched to it.
Okay, yeah, that's a great, it would be a great exercise to highlight for people because you can plug and play anything. But before we do, I just really want to bring awareness to the viewers and listeners that what we're getting here is practical interventions. This sense of empowerment that we don't have to really be in that cycle without that awareness. And really, you're saying the awareness is the first key. But once we have that awareness, we have strategies that can actually bring us out of what we're feeling. It's not something that is not tangible. It's not something that is, I feel hopeless, I'm never going to get out of this. We have practical strategies, and if it resonates with you, start putting it into practice. So yeah, I would love to like kind of go through that. I've never really done an exercise like this on a show, but let's say someone, I got a lot of DMs about addiction. There's people who are addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, whatever it is, their phone addiction. So all of the let's work with phone addiction,
Okay.
okay? Because I think this can, a lot of people viewing and listening, they go, "Oh no, damn it, that's kind of me." So the person who has phone addiction and they've come to the place where they can't not look at their phone when they wake up. They can't not go to the bathroom without their phone next to them. They're the person on the date with their husband or first date or second date
Yeah.
and they're dating. They go to the bathroom, immediately reach their phone, or they even when they look under the, like you said, the table in the middle of the date when their partner's not looking. So how would we address those impulses that have just become part of their life for phone addiction?
Well, I really like the way you started this. And it reminds me of if you, I don't know, you walked into your house or let's say your kitchen, you walked into the kitchen and you're going to make dinner and the kitchen's a total mess. It's cluttered. You can't possibly cook in it. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to probably yell at the people who left the mess, and then you're going to dive in. You're going to, clear some space, throw some stuff in the sink, whatever you would take action. You would move things around. You would deal with it. What you and I are talking about is for many people an absolute revelation that you can do that inside your own mind. You can move the dishes around. You can clean stuff up. You can throw out the garbage inside your own mind. Fantastic. You have power there. Use your power. Okay. So now let's talk about phone addiction. There's a lot of science, a lot of practical stuff about dealing with addiction. So I think it's like in any domain, if you want to get good at something, listen to people who have expertise. So there are different kinds of uh, people in recovery will talk about different things that help them deal with an addiction. I can call out the work of Judson Brewer. I don't know if you've had Judd on your show. He's a, think about it, your staff can look him up. He's a super duper, both academic and a practical person who is deeply knowledgeable about the brain with a deep background in addiction. And so he's really helped people break the habit cycle of one thing or another, including based on how that machinery works in the brain. So he's one resource, Judson Brewer. People can look that up. But for myself, I would say, I think there are two aspects of this. On the one hand, notice that it's really not that much fun to look at your phone. The brain is chasing that dopamine hit. So you're seeing the Andromeda galaxy here on my home screen, but anyway, that's my phone. Anyway, um, there's a dopamine rush that's about expected reward. So we expect the reward that if we reach for the phone and do something with it, it'll feel good. Or maybe some fear will go away, like it'll prevent the bad and it'll create the good. There's that expectation. And so dopamine in the brain is involved with that. But then when we actually look at the text or check the phone, it's usually disappointing. It's not that great. It's like, they haven't texted me, disappointment, or, oh, I looked at that like I'm a I look at political Twitter sometimes, or these days now Blue Sky, Twitter X. I prefer Blue Sky. Um, and it's the same helpless outrage, same old shit, right? Or something. So be aware of the fact that the expected reward is usually a lot less than you hoped for. Pay attention to that. So you become increasingly disenchanted. You could do that with, that third beer. You can do that with porn or anything. Do you realize, it's not that great, really? It's not that great. And admit it to yourself. It's like there's an inner advertising agency in the brain that says, oh, yeah, pick up your phone. It'll be awesome. Actually, they're lying to you in a sense. It's not that great. Be aware of that aspect of it again and again and again. And that will start to break the dopamine cycle. So you're no longer chasing what people call the molecule of more on the one hand. And on the other hand, as it were, pull the weed, you want to grow flowers that crowd out the weed. How else could you spend your time that would be really enjoyable? Like waking up in the morning, not hungover, not with that kind of foul taste, and not having your partner look at you like you drank too much again, you know, not feeling that. That's great. Notice it. Or with your phone. Instead of, hauling it with you to the bathroom, notice that it actually feels kind of peaceful and relaxing to not chase the hit. It's the chasing of the hit is actually itself stressful. Notice that it feels stressful to be seeking that reward. And in fact, it's a lot more peaceful to take those 2 minutes, 3 minutes you're using the bathroom to just chill and let your being kind of settle down, recenter yourself, um, not feel so fragmented, like you're over here and over here and over here. You're more collected, you're more gathered together. That feels great. And yeah, use your phone in moderation, drink in moderation, et cetera, as appropriate. But um, look for other things that kind of crowd out that which you're trying to do less of, and really appreciate their rewards. Notice how good it feels, like I'm saying, to not have to look at your phone, and or how good it feels not to get drunk, and so forth. So those are the two things to basically do, and do them again and again and again. And when you do that, especially if you do it in getting social support from other people, that's a key element too. If you put those three together, right? Um, Becoming disenchanted about the potential rewards, seeing through the spell, waking up from the spell that dopamine is casting and tricking you around, right? That's one. Two, finding higher pleasures. There's a traditional saying that wisdom is choosing a greater happiness over a lesser happiness. It's easy to choose happiness over pain, but to choose a greater happiness over the kind of sort of happiness of looking at your phone yet again, that's wisdom. So that's the second element. And then in all that, talk to other people about it. Maybe other people who are going through the same thing, Jonah, a phoneaholics group, and that you're getting mutual support. Those three together, they do tend to lead to lasting results.
Mm. The first one I never heard is actually having the realization that that which you're engaging in isn't always as good as you think it is before you engage in it. Um,
You can
and I
watch it. You can watch it with like simple things like food, a cookie or something. I want the cookie. Okay. How good do you think it'll be? Oh, it'll be amazing. And you eat the cookie. It's like, that's nice. Chocolate chip. Yeah, it's a cookie. Whatever. You know what I mean? And I think honestly, it's because the motivational systems in our brain evolved around 200 million years ago. They're very primitive, and they're a great way to motivate little, rats, ancient rats 200 million years ago, and then monkeys later on to chase the shiny object. So they want to really motivate the animal to get that thing. But now humans with our bigger brains and greater capacities, we can recognize that we're being sold a lie many times a day by this inner advertising agency.
Yeah, and it makes it not easier that outside of us, there's also things that are selling us on this thing being really shiny and better. So we have an inner advertiser, the outer true advertisers, And I have compassion for people who are really, I mean, I work on my phone, but I have to have strong boundaries, you know, really strong boundaries with blue blocking light to make sure the light's not sucking me in. And I had to actually download this app that I pay $100 a year to lock me out, but like indefinitely when I choose. There's no ways around. Some of the apps you're like, oh, well, you know, you just got to say, okay, I want it back. And then you just go through a few hoops and you got it back. No, I needed to have something like this.
Wow, interesting. Yeah.
To strong, but the nice thing is like, okay, especially early on, I was locked out of my phone. I was like, well, what do I do now? Because my I felt the stimulus of wanting to go on my phone and seeing colors and just being engaging with that. And then I started finding like the flowers, like, okay, well, I like to organize my whole downstairs before the next morning so I can come into a empty, like a calm space. Well, now that's benefiting my morning. Oh, now maybe I'll just go to sleep an hour earlier. Okay, now that's setting me up better for the next day. You know, it's interesting. Maybe I want to draw a picture and it's like expressing my creativity. So those flowers that you plant, it's interesting. Start revealing the parts of yourself that are wanting to come out, that are like better for you. The phone thing is real, and I get it. Like I'm with every viewer and listener out there with how difficult it can be. Um, yeah, so you have what you have multiple books you written, and you mentioned the happiness one. The newest one, do we have one coming out? One in the works that we don't know about yet?
It's kind. Well, I I kind of stumbled into writing books. I'm sort of startled to be able to tell you that I've actually published 7 books. And I look back, I go,
Congrats. Wow.
dude, what were you thinking? My wife looks at me from time to time like, dude, what were you thinking? But anyway, uh, the last one was called Making Great Relationships, which is 50 short chapters on different things to do in relationships to make them as good as possible, certainly. So that came out maybe a year or so ago. 7 is a lot. From time to time, I think about doing something for children because I have a real interest in kids and applying these tools, but I'm not sure the best form of that is a book. I almost think the best form of it is almost like an app or a game that would have psychological value along the way. Um, so yeah, that's what I've done so far. I have a lot of online programs. I continue doing, I would say, creative things in terms of teaching. Um, yeah, I don't know. Have you written a book?
No, 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 no. I will sometime soon. It's just you know how it is. Like you got to sit down and put everything together. So maybe in the near future, where can the viewers and listeners find your courses, and what are your courses about? And what's the website?
Oh, thank you for asking that. So best place is just search on my name, Rick Hanson, Son. My website is rickhanson.com, and will find just an overflowing treasure chest of free, brief, short little meditations you can do, short little practices. You put them on your phone, listen to them whenever you want, videos, PowerPoint slide sets, all kinds of resources there. Basically, the practical tools that are grounded in science, informed by meditation and contemplative wisdom that people can draw on to be stronger, happier, healthier in everyday life. I'm a methods guy. I'm really interested in bottom line practical tools. So I'd say go to the website. And in terms of programs, I don't know when this episode will post, but probably soon enough. I One of my programs is the Foundations of Wellbeing, which is a year-long program for developing 12 key strengths, 12 months, 12 strengths, starting with basically compassion and then mindfulness and other strengths like grit, gratitude, self worth, intimacy, motivation, et cetera, et cetera. So people can check that out. And one thing to know is that my stuff is priced very reasonably for what it is. I mean, that's one of my key values. And I'm really also happy to say that if people have financial need, we're very happy to give them the programs for free. They're also available in different languages, and there's good accessibility for them. So one of the nice things, I bet you feel the same way, is just to know that you're helping people. You don't know who they are, but you know it's reaching. It ripples going out. The other thing I'd mention is the Being Well podcast. I do that with our son, Forrest Hanson. And it's great. The Being Well podcast has become like yours, pretty well known. And that's another way for free, of course, for people to access what I'm doing.
Mm. I love that you're not just talking about conceptual things that sound nice, that are maybe one day we can reach to, but that's grounded in the practicality, which obviously was shown on this podcast. Viewers and listeners, we already have practical approaches to really get out of that rut that we've been in, but also that's what you offer in the services that you so generously, have given to us, either for free or for a affordable price. That, I mean, the feeling of giving and helping is, we share that as practitioners. So viewers and listeners, go check out the website, go look at the programs. If you're really struggling, whether it's addiction, depression, anxiety, know that there's an absolute way that you can pull yourself out of it. It doesn't have to be 20 years of just sitting and talking to someone. You can start making that move. And thank you for really giving us that resource and those resources, especially for today. I'm really grateful that we got to learn so much practical, easy stuff. You're not telling us to go to the Himalayas and meditate. You're telling us that we can do these things at home on a Monday night. We could start having this connection. Um,
Knowing that you can feel better tomorrow. You can definitely feel better next week. Now you'll have to do a little bit of work at the scale of 5 to 10 minutes a day. It's not a lot, but most people will not even give this stuff 5 to 10 minutes a day. And yet if you do, ooh, sky's the limit for how free you can feel, how healed you can get. Wow, how happy you can be. It's the
and
truth.
that's the power of being human. We have that all within each other and within us to really make that change. Um,
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Thank
Doc, for
you.
being on the show. I appreciate it. You're giving us so much great information. I'd love to have you back. We didn't even talk about relationships, relations. That's the next podcast
All right.
that we do. We'll do that next year, but I really want to have that conversation too. So thank you again, Doc.
Thank you.